So Elon Musk's plan to make the social security system more efficient and reduce fraud in the social security system has actually found very little fraud, if any at all, and has actually made the system so inefficient that it could potentially delay tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of benefits for people on social security. And Bernie Sanders is crushing Elon Musk for this. That's the topic of today's video. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. The fact that you watch these videos helps grow our community, and our community stands for sending that message to our government that they should be working for the average person and not billionaires like Elon Musk. And guys, I'm sorry, for those of you that like Elon Musk and think he's actually here to help the average person, quite frankly, I don't think so. And as we've seen over the past few years, Elon Musk really cozies up to politicians to make things kind of go his way when it comes to government policy, getting cases against his government or against his companies dropped by the government, getting more funding for the government for his programs. And if you think a billionaire, the richest person in the world, is out here to help you, I really want you to check this out, especially if you're on Social Security benefits. Now, before we jump into exactly what Elon Musk did, how this is slowing down benefits for a lot of people, first I want to show you guys what Elon Musk said earlier this year about Social Security benefits, and then let me know if you like Elon Musk, if you still like him after hearing this clip.
Well, I mean, the government's one big pyramid scheme, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, you can tell me better than anybody.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Right, explain that.
Oh, so, well, people pay into Social Security, and the money goes out of Social Security immediately, but the obligation for Social Security is your entire retirement career. So you're paying with you're paying like if you look at the future obligations of Social Security, it far exceeds the tax revenue. Far. Have you ever looked at the debt clock?
Yes.
Okay. There's our present day debt, but then
I really quickly want to point out here that he can't even explain what he means when he says Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. He says it's one of the worst Ponzi schemes of all time. But as the richest man on the planet, as supposedly a genius, one of the smartest people of our time, he throws out insane allegations like Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, and then he literally can't even explain what he's saying.
Our future obligations. So when you look at the future obligations of Social Security, the actual national debt is like double what people think it is because of the future obligations. So basically people are living way longer than expected. And there are fewer babies being born. So you have more people who are retired and that live for a long time and get retirement payments. So the future obligations. So however bad the financial situation is right now for the federal government, it will be much worse in the future.
Okay, so just because the system is not funded properly, just because billionaires like Elon Musk are not paying their fair share into the Social Security system, does not mean it is a Ponzi scheme, right? It is almost laughable that we have the richest person in the world here who literally does not pay more into Social Security than someone that makes about, I believe, $170,000 per year. He's not paying into it, percentage-wise like the rest of us, but then he calls it a Ponzi scheme because it's not well-funded enough to make sure it pays for everyone's benefits well into the future. Now, this man went on to create DOGE, as most of you know, the Department of Government Efficiency, and one of his first plans was to make Social Security more efficient by slashing employees, closing offices across the board, and doing so by saying, we're going to cut all these people and then we're going to make the system more efficient, instead of first making the system more efficient and then cutting employees, right? Because for those of you on benefits, if you've called the Social Security office, I'm sure you've waited on hold for hours potentially. That's always been a complaint. That's only going to get worse. And then on top of that, not only did he make things supposedly more efficient, but we'll show you how it's become less efficient, he's also supposed to be finding fraud, right? Now, we're going to show you in a second how they've actually found very little fraud and actually made the system so inefficient that a ton of people could potentially get their benefits delayed. But really quickly, before we jump into that, I want to play a clip. Bernie Sanders responded to Elon Musk's allegations that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. So let's take a look and see what Bernie Sanders said.
Well, let me ask you about Social Security. And you raised Elon Musk, Senator, so let me follow up with you on this very point, because he's made some very pointed comments about Social Security. I referenced it earlier in the broadcast. This was to Joe Rogan. I'd like you to hear it and get your reaction on the other side. Take a look.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. Basically, people are living way longer than expected. And there are fewer babies being born. So you have more people who are retired and that live for a long time and get retirement payments. So the future obligation. So however bad the financial situation is right now for the federal government, it will be much worse in the future.
Senator, President Trump says he's not going to touch Social Security. Elon Musk calls it a Ponzi scheme. Do you agree?
No, I think what Musk, the wealthiest guy in the world, just said is totally outrageous. That's a hell of a Ponzi scheme when for the last 80 years, Social Security has paid out every nickel owed to every eligible American. Quite a Ponzi scheme. What is in fact a problem is that if we don't make reforms and improve the funding mechanism, in the next 9 years, the Social Security Trust Fund, which provides about 20% of the funding, will go broke. So what we have got to do, and I think most Americans agree, and I've just introduced legislation to do that, is you lift the cap on taxable income. Right now, Musk, worth $400 billion, contributes the same amount into the Social Security Trust Fund as somebody making $170 million. You lift that cap, we can extend the solvency of Social Security for...
He meant to say $170,000 per year, not $170 million.
75 years, and you can raise benefits. Kristen, right now in America, half of elderly people are trying to get by on $30,000 a year, 22% on $15,000 a year. We've got to raise Social Security benefits. We've got to expand Medicare to include hearing, dental, and vision, not go after these programs which are so important to millions of our seniors.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, guys, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. It's honestly laughable, the fact Bernie Sanders essentially just reiterated what I said. The richest person in the world who doesn't pay his fair share into Social Security, right? It shouldn't be capped. People should be paying into it when they're billionaires, saying it's a Ponzi scheme. And really quickly, before we jump into what Elon Musk did that could be delaying Social Security benefit payments for tens of thousands, if not potentially hundreds of thousands of people on Social Security, quickly, let's take a look and see what the definition of a Ponzi scheme is, right? In case you disagree with me, in case you defend Elon Musk, Ponzi scheme, a form of fraud in which belief in the success of a non-existent enterprise is fostered by the payment of quick returns to the first investors from money invested by later investors, right? Now, is this a non-existent enterprise? No, it's not. The Social Security Administration exists. Now, are investors getting quick returns? And first of all, these aren't really even investors, right? This is the social safety net. Now, are investors getting quick returns from later investors that are then paying them? No. This is a social safety net system, right? Current employees, current workers are paying for, elderly folks that are already retired. These aren't investors paying other investors in a Ponzi scheme format, right? This is a system that needs to be fixed, right? And then we have people on Elon Musk's team, right, saying that they believe that up to 40% of calls going into the Social Security office to change your bank account, right, to make sure, let's say your bank account changes, you want to change which bank account your benefit goes into. They came out and said that they believe up to 40% of those calls are fraud. We're going to play the clip where Elon Musk's team, which is called Doge, one of the members said this. Elon Musk, I believe, basically backs up that claim. Then we're going to show you the facts that after Doge created a system to try and catch fraud, which Social Security already has their own systems, but they came in as unelected officials. They created their own system, their own standard operating procedure to try and prevent fraud. which actually made things so inefficient that a giant backlog of applicants who are applying to Social Security benefits, it just ballooned up. Now, this backlog is so big that people that typically would have gotten their benefits approved more quickly, they're taking a lot longer now, which means these people's payments could potentially be delayed, right? These are specifically for people that are not on benefits yet and are applying for them and have a massive, they're basically in a line of a massive backlog of people because Elon Musk put in this fraud prevention process, which has caught almost no fraud and at the same time has made it so inefficient that people's benefits approvals could be delayed and their payments could be delayed as well. But let's take a quick look and see what they said about the potential, supposedly 40% of these calls are fraud. Then we'll show you their own data from internal documents as to how much fraud they actually found.
Inspired me at a high level.
There's a lot of mystery about Social Security and a lot of words about it here's what Democrats have been saying about it.
It's absurd that Elon Musk is trying to eliminate billions of dollars from Social Security.
Elon Musk and President Trump have set their sights on cutting Social Security.
Their goal is clear: destroy Social Security from within.
You're in the building. I mean, you're in the computers. What's happening there? What are you doing?
Yeah, it doesn't line up with my experience on the ground. And I'll say the two improvements that we're trying to make to Social Security are helping people that legitimately get benefits, protecting them from fraud that they experience every day on a routine basis, and also make the experience better. And I'll give you one example is at Social Security, one of the first things we learned is that they get phone calls every day of people trying to change direct deposit information. So when you want to change your bank account, you can call Social Security. We learned 40% of the phone calls that they get are from fraudsters.
40%?
That's right. Almost half.
Yes, and they steal people's Social Security is what happens. Is they call in, they say, they claim to be a retiree, then they convince the Social Security person on the phone to change where the money's flowing. It actually goes to some fraudster.
Okay, so they said they believe up to 40% of these calls to change your bank account are fraud, right? So let's take a look. We're going to look at a couple of different articles. I know a lot of you don't trust CNN, so we're going to look at a few articles. Take a look at your screen here. This is just a quick search. If you search Elon Musk Social Security, right, you see Fortune, which is, it's not a liberal media site, right? Typically a little more conservative. They're more into finance. Doge said 40% of the Social Security agency's calls were fraudulent. Sorry, let's click on that because it cuts off. Doge says 40% of Social Security agency's calls were fraudulent. Data suggests it was actually less than 1%. The Washington Post, how Doge's grand plan to remake Social Security is backfiring. The New Republic, Doge's hunt for Social Security fraud ends in a total bust. The Daily Beast, Doge's fraud tracker at Social Security turns into a massive self-own, meaning they owned themselves and they failed. Now, I quickly want to show you guys this article here by CNN. I know a lot of you guys don't like CNN, but still, it's a good article here. Social Security drops controversial anti-fraud review amid growing claims backlog. This plan that Elon Musk put into effect for Social Security was actually so inefficient and so unfruitful when it comes to finding fraud that after just a couple of months, they are dropping the plan completely. And they're dropping this because it's become so inefficient that potentially hundreds of people's payments could be delayed. Now, I just want to clarify here for those of you that are anxious, if you're already on benefits, if you've been on benefits for a while, your payments should not be delayed. These are for people that are currently applying. That application process is taking much longer than it would. A huge backlog of applications is piling up, and therefore these people's applications are taking longer to be approved, meaning their initial payments could potentially and most likely will be delayed. And this is going to affect hundreds of thousands of people potentially. At the same time, they found very, very little fraud. So let's take a look here. A month after instituting a controversial anti-fraud policy that sparked widespread concern among senior citizens, the Social Security Administration has quietly dropped a key piece of the measure. The agency will no longer hold retirement benefit applications for 3 days to check for fraud, according to an email sent to employees and reviewed by CNN. And this has been confirmed by multiple outlets. You guys can check yourself. This is not just a CNN fake news thing. Now, the decision comes as the backlog in retirement benefit claims has swelled to nearly 575,000 applications, and employees whose ranks have thinned from downsizing efforts. Remember, Elon Musk and Doge said they were going to make Social Security more efficient by firing a bunch of people without actually putting in place systems to make it more efficient. So therefore, there's less employees, meaning things are taking longer. They're being encouraged, these employees whose coworkers were fired are being encouraged to work harder to process these claims, this backlog that they've created with this process. Pushed by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, also known as Doge, the anti-fraud policy was revised several times before being implemented amid an outcry from advocates for senior citizens and people with disabilities. Originally, the agency wanted to bar applicants from filing for benefits over the phone. This would have been a complete disaster, and let me know what you think about this. Arguing that it could not do efficiently identify verification, arguing that it could not sufficiently identify verification over the phone. Instead, people would have to confirm their identities through online portals, through the My Social Security portal, or physically visit a field office to complete the claim in person. Now, guys, let's use common sense here. A lot of seniors are not good with technology. A lot of seniors don't even own a computer, right? So take that out of the board there. Now you're going to make seniors who are potentially disabled, who are tired, who don't live even close to a field office and potentially don't even own a car. Now you're going to make them somehow get to a field office, which some of them can be very, very far away from those, right? Making things difficult for seniors who have worked their entire lives and paid into the system. Because of that, they scratched that plan. Now, the policy change, along with a related one ending beneficiaries' ability to update their direct deposit information over the phone, prompted senior citizens and people with disabilities to flood the agency's phone lines with concerns. Now, I believe I've been told that now if you want to update your direct deposit information, you're going to have to do that through a new portal that you have to sign up for. Now, less than 2 weeks later, Social Security announced that the anti-fraud policy would only apply to those filing for retirement. Now, again, that was what they were doing up until about 2 days ago. Survivors or family benefits over the phone, and its rollout would be delayed by 2 weeks until April 14th. The phone claims would be subject to a fraud review, and if any irregularities were detected, applicants would have to go to a field office to prove their identity. That's the plan they put in place that caused these massive backlogs. However, the review process only found over the course of about a month, okay? So they put this plan in place for about a month. They only found 2 cases out of the more than 110,000 claims that had a high probability of being fraudulent. And this is according to an internal document attained by NextGov/FCW. So this is less than 1%. This is actually like 0.0018%. And that's not even confirmed fraud. That is potential fraud, right? Let's see how they worded that there. They only found 2 cases out of 110,000 claims that had a high probability of being fraud. Only 2 were even screened as potentially as having a high probability of being fraud, not even confirmed being fraud, right? And in the process, they slowed down these applications, which are slowing down people's benefits. So what's more, the anti-fraud check delayed the processing of retirement claims by 25% and led to worse customer service. Can you imagine? I feel really bad actually for the Social Security employees, right? These government workers have been demonized by Elon Musk, saying they're lazy, they don't work efficiently enough, we need to fire a bunch of them. Now I'm sure they're out here working their tail off for people that are applying for their benefits. The customer service is terrible though, right? Because you've slashed employees, you've made the process take longer, you're not catching much fraud, if any, and then you're delaying a lot of people's benefits. Let's see exactly how big this backlog has become. Now, a growing backlog of retirement claims. As of mid-May, which is basically now, Social Security had nearly 575,000 pending retirement claims, with about 140,000 of them languishing for at least 60 days. So the backlog has ballooned to about 575,000, and 140,000 of them have been in process for 2 months, right? Imagine if you were waiting 2 months for your benefits, and that's just to be approved. So then they could start processing your payment. Who knows? That could take a few more weeks. Imagine waiting 3 months for your benefits. Imagine if right now you were not getting your benefits for 3 months. That would be terrible. People rely on these programs. Also want to share with you Elizabeth Warren. If you like her or not, she does fight for Social Security benefits. She fights for increases in Social Security benefits. She fights for protecting the Social Security program. And she said, this is a huge scandal. Elon Musk, JD Vance, and Trump are lying about Social Security fraud. Internal documents show Doge found no significant fraud, but did slow retirement claims processing by 25%. And remember, guys, Elon Musk and his team said that they estimated that 40% of the calls to change your bank account for direct deposit were fraud. 40%. Now they found less than 1%, a fraction of a percent. I believe it's like 0.0018% were potentially fraud. And even those weren't confirmed fraud. They were potential fraud, right? Check this out. 0.0018%. So there are allegations coming from Elon Musk and his team of 40% fraud, which there is no evidence of. Actually, to the contrary, there's so much less evidence of that. At the same time, they're saying they're going to make the process more efficient, but they're causing things to become so inefficient that a lot of people's claims are actually being delayed. And he's saying that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I hear someone call something a Ponzi scheme, that makes me think this person doesn't really like this program. That's just my thoughts. That's my impression. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. But if I'm someone that respects a program, if I'm someone that believes in a program, I'm not going to be out here calling it a Ponzi scheme. Is it a little bit broken? Yes. Does it need to be fixed? Yes. Do we need improvements to be made? Absolutely. But no, it's not a Ponzi scheme. And for those of you who are just joining, I'm going to play this clip again so you guys can hear what Elon Musk said about Social Security benefits. And then let me know, do you think that a person that says these things, do you think they care about Social Security benefits? Do you think they like that program? Do you think they want to help people on Social Security? Personally, I don't, right? But let me know if you disagree. And in this clip, it's funny because, he's supposed to be the richest man in the world, one of the smartest men in the world. He makes these crazy allegations saying that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. But then immediately afterwards, he cannot explain what he means by that or exactly how it's a Ponzi scheme, right? So check this out.
One big pyramid scheme, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, you can tell me better than anybody.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Right, explain that.
Oh, so people pay into Social Security, and the money goes out of Social Security immediately. But the obligation for Social Security is your entire retirement career. So you're paying you're paying like if you look at the future obligations of Social Security.
This is supposed to be one of the smartest men in the world. Can't even explain what he means when he's calling it a Ponzi scheme.
Security, it far exceeds the tax revenue. Far. Have you ever looked at the debt clock?
Yes.
Okay. There's our present day debt, but then there's our future obligations. So when you look at the future obligations of Social Security, the actual national debt is like double what people think it is because of the future obligations. So basically people are living way longer than expected. And there are fewer babies being born. So you have more people who are retired and that live for a long time and get retirement payments. So the future obligations. So however bad the financial situation is right now for the federal government, it will be much worse in the future.
It might not be much worse if people like Elon Musk actually pay their fair share. They shouldn't be paying the same amount as someone that makes $170,000 per year when he's literally the richest person in the world. But guys, that's basically it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, Elon Musk came up with a plan, first of all, saying that about 40% of certain calls coming into the Social Security Administration were fraud, at least according to their estimations. Data came out and said that it's actually less than 1%, a small fraction of 1%. So they're not catching much fraud at all, if any. And at the same time, they actually had to drop this fraud prevention program because they delayed the system so much by creating this half-baked, inefficient plan, at the same time firing a lot of Social Security employees. Now they have a massive backlog of people applying for Social Security benefits. So these people who are applying, their approval process is being delayed, and their payments will therefore most likely delayed. And right now they have about 575,000 applications in the backlog. So again, if you're already on benefits, these delays should and most likely will not affect you, but they will be affecting people that are just getting on Social Security benefits now, guys. So imagine if that was you. And with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, when you watch my videos, you help grow this community. The purpose of this community is to share our voice that the government should be working for the average person and not billionaires like Elon Musk. So thanks again for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, share these videos with your friends who you think might find this, helpful or positive. And hopefully I'll see you on the next video.